pushed me out of society, they pushed me out of my normal way of living, and they treated me as a terrorist. If they want a terrorist, they will get a terrorist.
They're dumb and young, so they believe almost anything.
I want him to come home, but regardless of all my efforts, nothing worked.
So you called them directly?
Yes, and invited them to come to the police station for a chat.
Welcome. Hi. Sometimes it's the small things that make the biggest difference. It was something small that stopped one of these men from turning into a terrorist.
Hvordan går det? Det går fint.
A simple chat between two guys.
Smuk udsigt, hva'? Ja. Det er Aarhus, når det er bedst.
They didn't know each other, they weren't friends. They were introduced to each other by the Danish police.
Det er også blandt andet de ting, vi snakker en del om. Det her med, at når du ser på den levestandard, vi er i her, og den frihed, vi har, så er det måske et af de bedste steder og det nemmeste sted at være muslim. Det skal man være taknemmelig for.
But Denmark has a reputation for being a tolerant, liberal democracy. And yet large numbers of young Muslim men have gone to Syria to fight with the Islamic State. Police here in the second city of Aarhus have decided to take a radically different approach to try and solve that problem. Jamal, as we'll call him, has asked to be anonymous. He was in his final year of high school when the police came knocking. He felt they were treating him suspiciously.
Hi, Jamal. Welcome. Hi.
Angry and isolated, he thought terrorism was the answer for him. The plan was to go to Pakistan, then Syria. Just as he was about to leave, he got an unexpected phone call from the police.
Hello, I want to talk to you about your case. It was badly handled and I would like to say sorry.
Why is it better to say sorry?
Because I was angry and I was frustrated, but I didn't commit anything illegal.
At that point?
At that point. Why I say sorry is, in my case, was to make, to not dehumanize me, but make me a human again. And he said to me, okay, can you do me one last favor? And I was like, what now? And he said to me, can you meet a mentor who is also a Muslim? And I was like, who is that traitor? So I said yes to the meeting just to put a face on that person.
The police officer arranged for Jamal to meet with a Muslim mentor at the police station. For security reasons, the mentor has asked us to conceal his identity.
When he came in, I could see in his eyes, there was not so much happiness. It takes a long time to be radicalized, but it also takes a long time to be de-radicalized. It's because they don't feel like I'm a part of this society.
He was a lawyer, he had a family, he had a house. I was like, this guy finds something peace that I didn't find yet. Let me figure out what it is.
So did that get you interested?
Yeah.
His success?
His success and how he managed to do it.
Slowly, the two of them started to talk more and more. They debated religion. They chatted about what it felt like to be a Muslim and Danish. Then his mentor took him to a cafe in a wealthy part of town. It was a simple act that changed everything.
For him, it was first time like a black guy who sit there in the middle of town in Aarhus because it was not his hood.
And I looked around and I was like, do you know we are the only two who have different colors? The rest have white colors. And he was like, yeah, relax.
That moment, it was very, a very important moment for us because at that time he also wanted to talk about his future. Before that, we always talk about his views and understanding of life, but also what happened before.
This is the back door we use where we invite candidates for our exit programs to come to. It's more easy to talk to them when they enter.
Just like a normal street.
Just like a normal street,
So it doesn't
yes
look
it
like
is.
a police office.
Yes.
Syria is not a place Superintendent Alan Arslev knew much about before 2012. He'd always worked in crime prevention until the police station started getting a stream of phone calls from panicked parents whose kids had fled to Syria.
They could describe their son's behavior before they went, and they more or less all could describe a son which had become more and more religious. These young men leave for some kind of reason, because there is something in their normal daily life that doesn't work so well.
The police needed to work out what they would do when these young men wanted to come back.
We had a number of options. We could prosecute them all if we could find evidence. However, those we couldn't prosecute, what should we do about them?
Alan and his colleagues came up with an idea that would shock most other countries around the world. Reach out and say hello.
So you called them directly?
Yes, and invited them to come to the police station for a chat, so they could get some kind of help having a good life here in the city, with education, a place to live, and things like that. The majority of these young men, they have their family roots in the Middle East, so of course they have very strong feelings about what goes on in the Middle East. And that's where we have to help these young men, saying that this is the place in Denmark where you were raised, this is the place where you live.
We hear repeated stories of these young men across the world, filled with anger and disillusionment. A recent report from Europol says 1/3 of those arrested for terrorism in Europe are under the age of 25. Nations like Australia, where the average age of jihadis is just 27, are struggling how best to deal with the problem.
Our message to people who leave Australia to fight for terrorist armies in the Middle East is that we don't want you back.
We face a growing threat from Islamist terrorism in Australia, in our region and around the world.
Many have taken a hardline approach, confiscating passports and harsh jail terms for anyone considering extremism, in the hope threatening them will deter attacks. Alan and his team questioned whether this was the right way for them. Their unusual program is sometimes called Hug a Jihadi.
If I knew of the Aarhus model, I would have moved to Aarhus, definitely.
Why?
Because Aarhus is the only place in Denmark that is miles before everyone else.
Carolina Dam lives in Denmark's capital, Copenhagen.
Just a small piece.
You cut your own piece. Yeah, it's much better. It's not hard to find out whose side you want to fight for.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Her eldest son, Lucas, was autistic. She spent years doing all she could for him, but he had trouble fitting in. At 15 years old, he converted to Islam.
He had an apprenticeship at a car shop. They were all Muslim, and this one guy took him under his wing. And they would pray together as well. They would do a whole lot of things, but I didn't really understand what was going on until he converted.
3 years later, he fled to Turkey and told Carolina he was doing aid work. She felt like she wasn't being told the truth.
How the hell could he get on a plane by himself? I know he was 18, but he was struggling with things. And for him just all of a sudden to be able to cope with an airport, taken off to a whole different country all by himself, how did he set all this up?
7 months passed with few clues from Lucas, until one Sunday evening she heard a knock at the door.
I pulled him inside, closed the door.
It was a Muslim friend of Lucas's she'd met before.
And I said, "Are you here to tell me that Lucas is dead?" And I knew that there was something really bad is going to happen.
He told her to go on Facebook and look up a page used by sympathisers of the self-declared Islamic State.
So I had to open up all these posts to see if I could find the picture. And some of these posts were rolling with videos of beheadings or body parts or what. It was very, very horrendous. I was scared shit trying to find my son in a Facebook group page.
When she finally found a picture of Lucas, he was on a couch next to an AK-47. Behind him, the flag of the Islamic State.
Well, at this point, it told me that he was in Syria, that he was with Daesh, and he was martyr.
He was dead.
Yeah. Thought he was dead, but I didn't think he was dead. It's a strange place to be in, and I still don't think he's dead. Sometimes I do believe he's dead, but sometimes I just think he's going to come walking on the grass, and say, "Hi, Mum." Because we don't have a burial, we don't have a body. And I think that's just something that we have to navigate with our emotions, our feelings for the rest of our lives.
Back in Aarhus, I want to understand what drives some young Muslims towards extremism. We keep hearing how one of the main problems might be that many Muslims feel isolated or segregated from the rest of Danish society. And in this city, it could be because most Muslims live in a specific area on the outskirts of Aarhus. We're going to a place known to many as a Muslim ghetto. A Somali man called Faisal Muhammad is going to show me what it's like here. He tells me about the challenges of feeling part of Danish society when your parents are from a different continent.
So let's take a trip.
Okay.
Through Gellerup.
What's it like for people here?
Well, for people here, a lot of immigrants face difficulties maybe with the language or the lack of network, the lack of connections with the broader society. But these are the things that a lot of people in the area are actually working to improve.
He works with a lot of young men who have difficult experiences and says the isolation Jamal felt can be dangerous.
When you come to Denmark very young with your parents and you move from a war-torn country, there's a lot of issues that comes with it because growing up as a young person you feel trapped between you feel alone actually and trapped between two worlds.
When we moved there, we were the only black family. All my siblings were the first black pupil in the class.
Jamal can almost pinpoint the moment the radicalisation began. It was during a high school debate about Islam.
She said to me that Islam is barbaric, it's stone people, it's something that belongs to the Stone Age. And I said to one of the girls who was debating with me that you deserve to be stoned when you talk like that, like that, and yeah.
What happened then? The teacher, what did the teacher do?
She took the concern to the principal. The principal called the police.
Jamal never considered himself extreme. When the police turned up, it felt like they had already made up their minds about him.
And he said to me that some of the classmates feel like that you have become extremist and you would like to bomb the school. And from that on, I was shocked because I wasn't a terrorist. It was a debate.
But that debate got him expelled from school. Police then raided his family home. He was so traumatised he missed his end-of-year exams and wasn't allowed to resit them again that year.
It was very, very humiliating, and my mother was shocked, my siblings was confused, and I was very angry that time. In my mind, I was like, they treated me as a terrorist. If they want a terrorist, they will get a terrorist. If that's what they want, I will give them what they want.
Jamal started spending more and more time with other young men from his mosque. Slowly, they convinced each other their place was not here in Denmark.
We discussed about what the hell are we doing here? Are we part of this society? No. What should we do? We discussed. And one of the guys suggested to me that we should leave. And I said to him, where? And he said, Pakistan.
When we make those groups, it can be difficult if you don't have your own filter. You think, okay, that's the right way to understand Islam. Then you go further, and suddenly you're on the airport.
3 of the young men Jamal was radicalised with ended up in Syria. 2 of them were killed. 1 of them is still there.
And do you have any contact with him? Do you know what's happening?
No.
If you hadn't met your mentor, if you hadn't been open to the program, do you think there's a chance that you would have gone to Syria yourself if you'd been still with the group?
Definitely. I felt like I was segregated, I was neglected, I was humiliated, so I was vulnerable. And for a person who is vulnerable at that time, maybe he would do anything.
Alan and his team were also faced with the problem of foreign fighters returning home.
A lot of people have just said, well, we'll just prosecute them, lock them all up.
No other country would give a jihadi a second chance. But Alan and his team did exactly that.
These are men who have been to Syria and we don't know what they have been doing down there. And that's the choice we have to make between helping them or leaving them alone. And that's where we, from my point of view, it would be much more safe for the local community here to help these young men to have a normal life after they have returned than to leave them alone.
Why?
Because if we left them alone, we could surveil them for ages without being sure that they would not commit any kind of crimes. If we did not integrate them into the local community again, they would be a safety hazard for us for a never-ending story.
Alan says since 2012, 36 local Muslims have left Aarhus for Syria. 19 have since returned to the community.
And what's happened to those 19?
Well, they are, most of them are very well integrated, and most of them are very happy that they had a second chance.
But not everyone believes in second chances. Danish politician Nasser Kader, a Muslim born in Syria, believes Australia and the UK's tougher approach is the better way.
What I have criticized when it comes to the Aarhus model is when you have been in Syria and come back. It's wrong, in my opinion, to reward who has been in Syria by giving apartment, jobs, education. We should persecute them, not reward them.
I see. Do you think it's a bad example?
It is, yeah. You know, go out and do some criminal, be jihadis, you will get a lot of privilege from the society. That's wrong, in my opinion.
Whatever the politics, undoubtedly there are young Muslim men across the world feeling shut out. Some are fleeing to Syria. Others are causing death and destruction at home. How best to deal with this is still up for debate. But in this tiny Danish city, giving a second chance and starting with an apology appears to be working.
It works at the prevention side. We're quite confident that the experience we have had, we are quite sure that this works. Nobody is going to the conflict zone in Syria and Iraq from this city, and nobody has gone for 2 years.
Really?
So, yeah.
For Jamal's mentor, this program is really about helping isolated young men become less vulnerable to messages of hate.
They are dangerous because they are dangerous human beings. So we cannot connect it to Islam. Of course, maybe they use Islam to hide their own weakness, but it had nothing to do with Islam's values. You can see that he is educated now. He has a bachelor degree in economy. You don't have a chance if you have a hard line.
Do you see yourself staying in Aarhus in the future?
Yeah. I'm not saying I'm nationalist, but I'm more patriotic than ever before, because I'm feeling that this problem can only be solved if we work together as a whole community, as a whole city.
While Jamal looks to the future, Carolina can't help thinking about how she might have changed her son's fate.
Here's something about the winter.
2 years on, she finds some comfort in rereading his final text messages
That was it.
and reaching out to other parents whose children have also joined Islamic State.
These are things that are so hard to talk about because it's taboo. It's the mother of a terrorist, whatnot. There are huge aspects with going public and telling these things. Huge. And for some, they just, they can't function anymore. A lot of the parents I have, they don't work anymore. They can't go outside the door.
With children, with sons overseas, in Syria.
Yeah. I've actually done some things to try and give myself something that would ease my pain away. And in Islam, when you're a martyr, you're actually the most beautiful bird in paradise. So he's my beautiful green bird in paradise. I've got a bird cage with some things in as well, and that bird cage is open. So if he's a bird, the beautiful bird in paradise, the door is always open. There's always room for him.
For Lucas to come home.
Yeah.